Hey guys, welcome to Walsham Weekly. So this week I'd like to have a little chat or a little rant about sort of positivity. So the reason I want to talk about this is recently, I've been looking around and I've been seeing literally just on the culture of people and of teenagers and just people in general, like adults, teenagers, all that kind of thing. I just see this negativity for I don't know what reason or what point, and I can see how people get into this, but I can't see why they would stay in this or why they would continue to let themselves sort of live like this. So yeah, what I mean by this is that when you go and look on, it's especially prominent in student sort of Facebook culture, because even if you just look on memes, there's so many memes that are just self-deprecation. And then you get those memes that carry through, and you meet those people in real life who really, they make the jokes and then blah blah blah, and the jokes on the surface, they seem like they're just jokes, but they're jokes to a point. Like past a certain point, people start to realize they're not jokes, but we don't really do anything about them. And I just sort of like to give my little 2 cents on that. So yeah. Personally, one thing that really helped me develop a generally positive attitude towards life was I was listening when I was having my hard times. There was this guy, Brendan Burchard. He sort of taught me how to. He's not someone I really listen to now because it's very self-helpy, and it's not really something I'm like. I think I've sort of gone past that stage of self-help into more practical self-help stuff. But it is a really good place to start. Things like Brian Tracy. The sort of very basics of productivity and self-help. Brendan basically made a podcast about how to bring the joy. I remember that's exactly how he phrased it, and I'll never forget it because I was in quite a dark place, and I sort of felt like I'd forgotten how to be positive and sort of how to what was the point, because a lot of the people I was around had this very negative mood. They didn't really know I didn't think they wanted to. Obviously, everyone wants to be positive, right? Everyone really does want to be positive, and they want to bring a happy, joyous thing. But then some people get into a habit of being negative, and then they make it they pretend it's a joke at first, and they make this negativity just them, and then their whole life just becomes this sort of. Not everything is bad, but they don't actively try and do things that make them happy. Yeah, and I found a lot of the people who I was around were not really aiming for positivity, and that's something I sort of was incredibly confused about because I didn't really get it, and I found it impacted me a lot because I didn't really know what to do. Because I felt as though my only option was to be negative, and I just wanted a way out of that because I just can't see the point in being negative all day or just in general. Yeah, you're going to have down days, but if your general attitude, say if your attitude is a little line, and then going up on the graph means positivity and going down on the graph means negativity, if the majority of your reactions to most things are going to be negative, then something needs to change. And for myself, I thought I was being incredibly positive, but I just didn't know how to sort of react. And it sort of came down to learning how people react and why people say things and why people do things. And I sort of learned things. There's this page called RSD. If you know what that is, then you'll probably think I use it for something else, but I don't really use it for that. The reason they taught me so much is they teach you how people work, why people do things. And I thought that was something I was already good at, but I realized there's so much more to learn. But yeah, the thing that Brendan taught me was he taught me sort of how to bring this, because what made me sort of realize that I can do this and not be judged or not feel that I'm being judged or anything like that, because in reality you're not being judged. No one cares, really. One thing that really helped me do this was realizing that everyone wants to be in that positive situation with that positive person, and that positive person surrounds himself with more positive people because likes attract. A person who brings lots of positivity is not going to attract heaps of negative people. And I found the more positive I became, the more positive the people around me became. And sometimes I would even feel resistance. Like I would try and be incredibly positive, and they would be like, no, I don't want to be positive. Like, I don't know, just for some reason resisting this. And I feel like, I don't know if it was just my group at the time, but we just had this sort of, like general trend downwards towards negativity. And I didn't see the point. And I feel like that's a lot of people nowadays. A lot of people go through their days, go through their jobs, not really knowing how to be positive or how to like be spontaneous. And I find that's something that really is something that I find quite enjoyable now. Like one thing that I try and make an effort to do, like there's this one place that I get my coffee from like every morning. I always say, don't get coffee, but this place is super cheap. It's like half the price of normal coffee, so I can justify that. It's definitely consumerism, but need a coffee, eh? I always go there, right? And these people, they're quite like, there's two people that work there, and it's obviously like something that they do every single day. They're always there. It's quite like mundane. A lot of the people that come in will just say, hi, yes, can I have a latte, blah, 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 and then they leave. But like when I go there, I try to sort of be the reason they have a good day, because it's like, it's literally so easy to make someone's day. It's so easy. And I find that's the easiest way that I can bring positivity and sort of make people feel positive about me. And I find that's a way that I sort of made myself very likable, because if in every interaction you are being incredibly positive and you're being like, hey guys, how are you doing, blah blah blah, yeah, positivity. And then if someone tries to bring it negative, but then you bring it back positive, like sort of, yeah. So in the interaction with the coffee shop, like I'll ask them, how's your day going, blah blah blah, but not in such a mundane. One thing that I absolutely hate, I hate this so much, is going through your day without sort of like being spontaneous and making it not so routine. I absolutely hate routine. I like routine for my habits, like things like working, getting up at 6 a.m, going to the gym, blah blah blah, stuff like that. But when it comes to routine, like not even getting out of robot mode. And the way I like to sort of get people out of robot mode is you just ask a question that they don't get asked. And that's like part of the reason why I started this podcast. Well, right now I'm not getting guests on until the next 3-4 weeks from now, once exams are over. Woohoo. Hopefully the solo episodes are okay, but the reason I mainly started this podcast is I noticed like once I started doing this, I started like bringing the positivity and sort of getting people out of robot mode by sort of asking them a question that they don't normally get asked. Is it completely like, they're like, what? They just sort of get shocked out of their day because they don't realize, they don't normally get asked the question. They're just like, hey, how are you? How's your day going? Yeah, man, it's going good. How's your day? Yeah, it's good, man. Yeah, cool. It's like, yeah, like say, how would you do this though? Like the ways I like to do it is if I just go to a shop and you ask them, how's your day? Blah blah blah, some other random question. Oh, blah blah blah. What's the difference between these? How do you do this? But definitely, if it's like at a shop or something, I do find sometimes it's hard to get them out of the customer mode. This is a customer, so you've got to sort of get them out of that and then bring the positivity by being like, hey, I'm a real person. Hey, let's be positive. Woohoo! And I try to do it with my lecturers as well, because a lot of the time they'll be like, yes, this is how you do this. And then I ask a question, and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And then I try to ask questions that aren't really to do with what we're talking about, like aren't to do with the lesson, but are to do with like the subject of podiatry, which is what I do at university, if you don't know. But then if you ask questions about the subject of podiatry, that sort of, but not about the actual lesson, but just makes you seem interested. And then they answer it with passion, because my lecturers are passionate about what they're teaching. So yeah, one thing that I really find helps, this, I don't even know what I'm going to title this episode, but it's sort of like how to, I don't know, interact with others in a really positive way that takes them out of their day. One thing that I really just ask them a question about something that they're passionate about. And if you don't know what they're passionate about, ask them something random. Or literally, like, I was in a group for like, we had assessments last semester it was like a group assessment, And at first it was incredibly awkward, but the way like I got it from being incredibly awkward is you sort of just be spontaneous. Like I would do like I would just sort of be as authentically me as possible without like, because the thing is, I sort of realized like everyone in the group is scared of being judged, so everyone's quiet. But then I realized once we got past that stage, everyone was like, "Oh, sweet, what's up? Let's get to work. Let's do this. Let's have fun." Like we all sort of got down and did it. So yeah, but another thing that I'd really like to talk about is like if you find that you are the negative person who doesn't know how to stop being negative, because I find a lot of the people when I've like sat down and talked to them about this, like they don't know how to stop being negative because it's just like they don't see, like I know they want to stop it, but they always just slip back into it without even realizing. Then they'll realize like after. One thing that I find is sort of work on yourself. So like start to realize what impact you actually have on other people. Because like if you do continue negative attitudes and sort of negative, even just negative comments that come off as jokes, because especially in high school, there's so many people in high school that just trend towards negative comments, but they're meant to be like ha ha, but it's like every party involved doesn't get too much like laughter out of them and they don't really find them funny. Like I feel like it's just about being in tune with how people are actually reacting to a situation. Like you can easily tell that if you come into a situation, say for instance when I'm in clinic, where clinic is like when we go into podiatry clinic and we practice certain things that we've learned. Usually it's like we're in a pair of two, and we sort of practice on each other, and it's a lot of like awkward silences, like, and a lot of them are very quiet. They're quite shy, because I feel like I've come off as quite a outgoing person in my class, and the way I get them to sort of open up and the way I find just in general getting people to open up is open up yourself first, because like even if they do judge you, no one cares. And this is one of my best friendships was actually sort of made by we both opened up, and the way, because this is when I first learned about stuff like RSD. RSD is called Real Social Dynamics. Basically they teach about how to have good quality social interactions. A lot of it does focus on like girls and all that stuff, and a lot of it is quite like sort of sleazy and weird, but I do find the stuff that is on like how to be successful and how to have good quality friendships and how to make good friends and how to sort of be positive, they do have some really good stuff. But yeah, so like with my high quality friendship, the thing I noticed was at first we found it quite easy to sort of converse with each other and sort of like build a relationship and build a friendship. The way we sort of became really close is like at first I tried to open up quite a lot, like sort of just show my insecurities and things like that, like show the points where I'm not as confident. Like if I'm insecure about my feet, I'll be like, yeah, blah blah blah, I hate my feet or whatever. Like you go in and you tell them, or you sort of, what's the word? This is something that really I find especially works with those negative people as well, is like to get them to open up. One thing that really helps me is being quite vulnerable, because when you show that you are vulnerable and you show your insecurities, that helps it sort of deflates the situation, deflates the tension, because with people, a lot of people are really scared of sort of like the judgment, even if it's just on a one-on-one interaction. I feel like that's where it really becomes very easy to open people up, when it is one-on-one, because you are the only person who can be judging them in that situation, right? So, and then if you show that you are not going to judge them, and the way you show that is by being vulnerable, and I find that really helps me, and sort of really helps me open people up and show that I'm not going to judge, and that there's really nothing to worry about. And then from there, they open up. If they are being a negative person, they do drop that negativity. But yeah, obviously, like, I'm not a psychologist. This is just something I've observed and just something that I've sort of thought about a lot, because it's something I had some trouble with earlier on in life, and now I sort of realized how I sort of went about dealing with that and sort of monitoring it and changing it. But yeah, I'd also like to talk about sort of how to get out of a negative mood, because a lot of the time when I am in sort of negative moods that really don't help me, that really sort of impact me and don't let me perform at my best, or sort of perform at my best in any area, like relationships or like in my work or anything like that, is I'd sort of like, say if I'm just in a negative stint, or say for League of Legends, we like to call it a tilt, or I think they call it that for gambling as well. It's basically sort of when you're just on a bad roll, and that sort of impacts you negatively and makes you think negatively. One thing that I really like to do is I like to sort of just take myself out of it. So say like, if I have really just been frustrated at work and I've been trying to completely change everything, and I just completely sort of ram my head against the wall of work and nothing is budging, the way that I sort of like to get around that is literally just go for a walk, or go to the gym, or literally just go relax. I was talking to my peer the other day, someone who does podiatry with me, and they were saying how they've been like really, we have this assessment called Mahara, and basically it's like 15,000 words. It's like, it ends up, I don't even want to know the amount of words I've done for this thing. And they did a session of like, they did like 8 or 9 hours straight of just doing Mahara, and then by the end of it they clicked save and it didn't save, and they just went absolutely crazy. They were like in tears, and they just absolutely completely ruined their week, like month. It just completely wrecked them. And then after after that, instead of just going back into it and going straight back into it and just ramming their head against it, they just took a break, relaxed. Because sort of the way I like to think of it is, yes, you can try catch up on that 8 or 9 hours, but you're relatively like, you're not really going to catch back up on what you sort of missed out. And the way I personally would deal with that is I would prefer to just sort of back off, leave it alone, and then come back when I am feeling recharged and am feeling better. And if I am feeling just generally negative about life, or negative about like the future, all those kinds of things, one thing that I find really helps me is I go listen to people who really do inspire me, people who really do sort of have a vision, like they know exactly what they want in the future. And I think that's so important, but I know that's such a like arbitrary concept. It's like you hear those self-help people who say all that shit about how you've got to blah blah blah, have your golden vision, blah blah blah, all that crap. Like, so much of it is hard to digest, but if you go watch people and listen to people and talk to people who really do, they don't have to have their vision, they don't have to be incredibly motivated people, but they should be positive, because if you are interacting with positive people and you go open up and interact with them in a positive way, I find that really helps me. Like that, my friend who I opened up to them and then they opened up to me, when I go and have a conversation with them, we both come out of it feeling way better, just because the way we both talk to each other is, hey, you go, yeah, good job, man. It's like we talk to each other in such a positive way. And that's something I really value and find, like, it's hard to find stuff like that. But when you sort of build friendships like that, that's something that really has a huge impact on how, like, on your ability to bring the joy, sort of. Because if you do find those relationships that really are positive and they really do focus on positivity, then I find it much easier myself to go and interact positively with other people. So yeah, I know this is a bit of a short episode, and it's just, I don't know if you guys are getting bored of sort of me rambling on my own, but it's something I'm trying to focus 100% on my exams right now, because I'm having to put that as my priority. But yeah, I hope these episodes are still turning out alright. I'm still quite enjoying doing these solo ones. I might do a few over the holidays, but basically my plan is, if you're not from New Zealand, the plan is we have like 2 semesters and then we have like a 4-month break. It's an absolutely huge break. Over the holidays, I've got a plan of basically smash the podcast, get tons of guests on, absolutely just demolish it over the holidays, completely just ramp it up in every single area, not just ramp out episodes, but I'm also trying to sort of make the way I do things better and sort of increase my quality. Because even just through this episode, I was noticing for the first half, my audio was really bad because I was sitting too close to the mic. And yeah, so that's something that I think I definitely need to fix. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I would love if you would leave a review. That's something that I'm really trying to get down, because if you are listening on iTunes especially, that would really help me out. If you just basically, the way you go to that is you click on the app, you open the app, you go to My Shows, and then you scroll down and you go to Episodes, not Show webpage, you go to Episodes, and then you scroll down and it should say Review down there. So yeah, it would mean so much to me if you left a review, because I think I'm 1 or 2 reviews away from getting a rating, and that helps me out a lot with just sort of getting my podcast to more people. And I like, with this podcast, I sort of just want to make an impact. That's like the general goal, is I'm trying to sort of make this podcast successful by the end of the 3 years of my university, because as Gary Vee says, like, when you're young, it's time to take risks and it's time to experiment and it's time to make yourself more productive and make yourself actually sort of achieve things that you didn't think you could, and do things that you wouldn't want to do when you're later in life, when you're being safe. So yeah, right now it's time to, take risks and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd love if you guys would leave a review. I hope you subscribe to the podcast already. If you'd like to contact me on my email, which can be found on my Instagram. But yeah, all the links are in the show notes. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much and have a great day.